You're now watching Sports Bettor's Paradise on the BetRivers Network.
All right, Jimmy Outlaw and Paul Stone talking college football holiday weekend. Looking for some action on this extended football weekend. We got Maction on Tuesday. Got Maui Classic stuff going on in the hoops over in Honolulu this year for a great cause as well to try and benefit the fire victims in Maui. So, and also Paul Stone with us. First of all, Paul, happy Thanksgiving to you and yours. I know you'll enjoy your time off over the holiday weekend. How are you?
Doing well. Yeah, having today's Tuesday, November 21st as we record. We're actually having our family Thanksgiving tonight. So a lot of families branching off. So looking forward to spending some time with loved ones. But as you know, as handicappers, the beat goes on. A lot of college football and college basketball. So not much of a break, but certainly good seeing family and friends.
All right, let's start off with one here in Middle Tennessee State going to Sam Houston State. Sam Houston State, with all the attention that James Madison has gotten, jumping up to Division I. Sam Houston State made the move as well. KC Keeler, we talked about them in the conference preview, had 259 wins. He was not, he's used to winning, but Sam Houston State was finding ways to lose. They also had a tough start to the schedule. BYU, Air Force, and Houston. And then they started losing their close games. One score losses to Jacksonville State, to Liberty, to Florida International, and to UTEP. 4 of those 5 before they finally turned it around. Wins against Kennesaw State, Louisiana Tech, and also a cover, one of your picks last week at Western Kentucky. Sam Houston State getting into a comfort zone down the stretch in their move up, Paul?
I believe so, Jimmy. This is a Sam Houston team that, first of all, had wild success at the FCS level, won the 2020 season FCS championship, I believe, in the spring of 2021, had a lot of success at that level. They actually set themselves up for the first year in FBS by redshirting a number of their top players last season. So they tried to do the right things, but obviously their first season at the FBS level to this point has not been what they envisioned. It's been a series of close calls, but after starting the season 0-8, they've won 2 of their last 3 games. And the game that they did lose this past weekend in Bowling Green, Kentucky, lost at Western Kentucky 28-23 as a double-digit underdog. But that was a game they actually led 23-21 after 3 quarters. And they also, although they were trailing by 5 points late, they had the ball first and goal from the Western Kentucky 10. Could not get the touchdown, though. So lose that game. Of their 6 conference losses, you kind of alluded to this, but of their 6 conference losses, 3 have been by 5 points or fewer. Another went into overtime. So a lot of close games for the Bearcats. They've been extremely competitive in the majority of their games. You look at this Middle Tennessee team, they're 4-7. So neither of these teams are going bowling this year. The Blue Raiders, looking at their 4 victories, they defeated FCS Murray State. The 3 other wins, Louisiana Tech, Florida International, and Texas El Paso. Those 3 teams against FBS competition this year, a combined 7-24. So not really any marquee victories for the Red Raiders on their resume this year. Sam Houston, their offense has gotten a little bit better. That's kind of been their Achilles heel this year. They've averaged 5.2 yards per play their last 5 games. That's not going to make the LSUs of the world jealous, but it certainly represents improvement for the Bearcats. I just think they're hungry. I think they want another win. They've had so many close calls. They want to go out with a bang. I think they get their 3rd win this Saturday there in Huntsville, Texas. Take Sam Houston +4 over Middle Tennessee.
One of my favorite handicapping angles, and that is no matter what sport, a team that is playing higher than their overall resume. And this is a 2-9 team that's playing by far their best football of the season coming down the stretch. 3 straight covers and 4 or 5 close losses before that. And a team that finally has figured it out a little bit, maybe doing some things out of character in their move up to D1. But Man, 2-9, they are playing much better than that. Get extra value this football season with BetRivers Squares. Went up to $10,000 in bonus money. Bet $10 in same-game parlays on any game with the Squares icon to earn a square. That's brought to you by our friends over at BetRivers. All right, let's go to the battle in Virginia here. Virginia and Virginia Tech. Virginia at home coming off of the win against Duke. In Virginia Tech. Virginia at home is +3 against Virginia Tech. I've paid close attention to Virginia because it was one of my 8 or 9 win total bets for the year. I bet under 3.5. You know, all that crazy talk about James Madison, should they get in, the appeal, the whole thing. Very first game of the season. There was life and death to come back from a double-digit late deficit on the opener in Charlottesville. They lost the one on Friday night to Louisville. We know about where they led on the road. Louisville, very tough at home. My point is, I'm lucky to be in this spot where I could just hedge a 3-point to secure some sort of profit with Virginia under 3.5. They've been closer than expected. We know about all of I guess just the situation with the tragedy and the rebuild and all that they lost from their in the transfer portal to their roster. But Tony Elliott, a class way to kind of handle this thing together. They've been more competitive. And Paul, I think you think the same thing. They're going to be more competitive than they anticipate against Virginia Tech on Saturday.
Yeah, I do. I mean, this Virginia team, first of all, this game, due to those tragic shootings late in the 2022 season, this game was actually not even played last year. If you remember, it was canceled.
Right.
So these teams will be anxious to reacquaint with one another, to put it mildly. Virginia's not going bowling this year, but after an 0-5 September, they've been a tough out, as you pointed out. They've won 3 of their last 6 games. That includes wins over North Carolina and Duke. And one of their losses during that stretch was an overtime loss at Miami, Florida. They had another setback at Louisville, only by 31-24. And in that game, they actually led 24-17 over Louisville midway through the fourth quarter. So this is a Virginia team that's been oh so close this year. I think they're much better than their record indicates. You got a Virginia Tech team at 5-6 that needs to win in Charlottesville to achieve bowl eligibility this season. All 4 of Virginia Tech's victories in the ACC have been against teams with a losing conference record. Those 4 teams, Pittsburgh, Wake Forest, Syracuse, and Boston College, a combined 7-21 in league play. The Hokies' other victory this year, a season-opening 36-17 victory over Old Dominion of the Sun Belt Conference. So Virginia Tech, they really hadn't defeated anyone of note. Virginia, I really like their true freshman quarterback, Anthony Calandria. He's been described as sort of a poor man's Johnny Manziel. I kind of like that description. I think it's fitting. I just like, again, the trajectory of this Virginia team. I think they want to close it out on a high note. They're going to be at home. They want to get that victory. I like the Who's take Virginia +3 over rival Virginia Tech.
So there's a Thursday night game at Louisville. At one point, they had a 4-point lead in the fourth quarter driving in Louisville territory. They were -320 in game on the money line. And so they've been in position. They live for the close games, it seems, this year. Let's stay in the ACC and go to Chestnut Hill. Boston College in Miami. Miami visiting here as a 9-point favorite against Boston College.
You look at the weather forecast occasionally, and you look for settings that are perhaps not in the wheelhouse of the visiting team. And I think that situation points towards the home underdog here getting more than a touchdown. First of all, this is a Miami team that had grander aspirations than sitting here at 6-5 as they travel to Boston College this weekend. The Hurricanes, they've lost their last 3 games, and 2 of those have been 7-point, hard-fought defeats at the hands of rival Florida State and Louisville. Miami now has to go to Chestnut Hill. It's a noon kickoff Eastern time. Going to be a high temperature, according to the forecast, of only 36 degrees with a little wind. Back in South Beach, it's supposed to reach 81. So I don't think this is exactly the type of weather that the guys for Miami, for the U, signed up for. I don't think we're going to see a peak type effort from the Hurricanes the day after Thanksgiving during a season which could have been so much more, played in weather conditions, again, not exactly to their liking. Meanwhile, you look at this Boston College team, bowl eligible at 6-5. A win over Miami, in my mind, would be a huge just a point of positivity from a program standpoint. If you recall back in week 3, Boston College, that game against Florida State at home, eventually lost that game 31-29 to the Seminoles. But man, they had them right there, and we got a taste in that game of their redshirt freshman quarterback Thomas Castellanos. Not a great passer yet. He needs to refine those skills. He's thrown 11 interceptions, but that guy can run the football. He is a threat in the running game. 827 rushing yards this year. So with a good game against Miami and then the bowl game, he could reach that 1,000-yard rushing plateau. I think Boston College got a chance to win here. Really like those 9 points. Take BC plus 9 over visiting Miami in temperatures just over the freezing mark.
Here's another angle for you, too, historically with Miami, as they are a proud program and, obviously not nearly what they once were, but sometimes their interest level can kind of go back and forth. They're coming off of their rivalry game against Florida State and then hosting a top 10 team. How excited are they to play on a Friday at a noon Eastern in Chestnut Hill in the cold weather? No, we'll see. But and boy, did you see the visual of the defensive back who didn't push the guy out for Louisville going down the right sideline? That's a tough one to overcome as well, as they lost that 38-31 game to Louisville. All right, one more game that you're looking at. It's a total out in the desert. Another rivalry game here in Tempe. Arizona and Arizona State. The total is at 50, Paul. What you looking at, over or under?
Yeah, I'll tell you, Jimmy, I make sides and totals in all college football games, and I actually made this total 47. So I feel like there's a little bit of value here with the under. Much of the season, or much of the reason, rather, for my low total in this game is just the fact that Arizona State, they just lack playmakers offensively. And on the other hand, they've played pretty good defense for the most part. They've shown some scrappiness on defense. Arizona, they've only allowed, you look at Arizona's defense in their last 5 games, they've only allowed 17.8 points per game, 4 of those games being played against ranked opponents. So a better than expected defense for Arizona, not much offense for Arizona State. Further along that line, Arizona State's only scored a total of 33 points in their last 3 games. In those 3 games, they've only averaged 3.4 yards per play, so just not a whole lot going on offensively for the Sun Devils. And of that 33 points in the last 3 games, 10 of those were scored last week in the final 9 minutes of a 49-13 home loss to Oregon. So kind of in mop-up time, nothing on the line there. So Arizona State, very little offense, but a defense that has been scrappy at times, gave up just 15 points and 288 yards to playoff contender Washington a month ago. I just think this is going to be a game in the 40s. Take Arizona State under 50 this week in Tempe.
Well, I tell you what, Jed Fish, huh? What a job he's done, taking over a 1-11 program, and here was, just smashing Utah. And keep in mind, man, played the undefeated Huskies really, really tight. And they were not as much on the radar back then, but as good of a job there as being in college football this year. And there's a lot of good coaching jobs around the country this year. Big one at the big house, though, Paul. Give me your opinion. I've got a little angle on it as well. We're looking at 3.5, 46.5 right now, Michigan over Ohio State.
Yeah, obviously, this is the game of the week, and there's a lot of general interest in this game as well as betting interest. I tend to look a little bit further down the board oftentimes. In this game, I don't have a huge opinion other than the fact that Michigan has won the last 2 years. They won by double digits, in fact, the last 2 years as the betting underdog. Now they get to wear that favorites role, and that's a different, a lot of people don't think that matters perhaps, but that's a different dynamic. These teams, it's hard to really get a feel in my mind for just how good these teams are because they really hadn't played too many high-quality opponents in my mind, to be frank about it. But, pressed to make a play, I would take the 3.5. I think the teams are relatively even. Marvin Harrison Jr., he's just a guy who could be a difference in a game like this. So I would, lean to the Buckeyes plus the points.
I'm going with Michigan. I'm going with Michigan here, and I think this is their bigger sandwich spot in all of college football than Michigan the past 3 weeks. This 3-game stretch, they played nobody for 9 weeks. They go to Penn State. Got a little bit of distraction along the way. Literally on the way, they got the message to Happy Valley. A little lazy spot against Maryland, and then here's Ohio State. So I don't want to be too alarmed that 23-3 lead basically evaporated in College Park, and then to hang on for their life, they'll be ready. And you know what? Under. Both teams, are a little bit pulled back on their quarterback at times this year. We saw, no official passing attempts in Happy Valley in the second half, and we've also seen McCord struggle at times. I think this is a Woody Bow type of game more than these modern games that have been, just rolling over the total. So I'm going with Michigan and the under in this one. Happy Thanksgiving to you and yours, Paul. We appreciate it. We're thankful for you each and every week with your picks and your angles here on Sports Bettor's Paradise. For Paul Stone, I'm Jimmy Ott here on the Sports Bettor's Paradise on the BetRivers Network.